All righty, big smiles are ready to go. It is Thursday Roundtable. And as those of you are starting to sign in, let us know where you are signing in from, what country, what city, what state. We'd love to hear from you. And we want you to be ready to ask questions and be really actually be a part of our discussion. We definitely want to hear back from you. But the goal of today's session is to show how we can create a welcoming environment for foreign trained staff. Over the past several years, we've had more and more of folks from other countries coming in and helping us with our shortage here in the United States for healthcare workers. So we're very happy to have a great panel for us today. And we have two that are visible on your screen and one you cannot see, but you will be able to hear her. So we have Dr. Mona Gaw at the very top. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you, Rollis? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today.
Excellent. Let me make sure. You know what? I want to make sure our sound is working correctly. Let's see here. Let me just. Were you guys able to hear? Let us know in the comments if you were able to hear what Mona just said. Okay, and then at the bottom we have Miss Lona Small. She's coming in from Maryland. Welcome, Miss Lona Small. How are you?
Hi, Rollis. Hi, audience. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about today. Great topic, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Okay, let me see if I can. And guys, in the comments, let me know if the sound is okay, if you can hear both of us, and maybe Jonathan, you can let me know if the production is okay, or Joanne. And then we also have Dr. Reezena Malaska. She's coming in on the we'll say on the phone line, and so welcome to the show, Dr. Z. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Rollis. It's always wonderful to be on your show. I'm excited. It's been a while since I have attended anything. Since I last was on your show, I moved from Indiana to Tennessee. And I'm working here on another critical care contract. Still doing nights, work last night, had a few hours sleep today. Got myself all dolled up just for this show, and now you can't even see me.
Oh, that's okay. We're glad you're here, though. Thank you for being here today. And we want to get right into the discussion. And again, let me know, Joanne or Jonathan, if the sound is A-OK. I want to make sure I just made another adjustment to it. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get right into our discussion here. What are some things that you observed or that you experienced when you first came to the country? Dr. Gar, I want you to start us off. Give us your first impressions of how was it kind of transitioning from where you could, first let us know where you came from, and then how it was transitioning here to the States.
Thank you, Rollis. So I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I came to the United States in 2004. It was in January of 2004. I started in New Jersey. And as we all know, it's winter time in the East Coast during that time. So it might not have been the best time for an immigrant coming from a tropical country to move to a new country. So that was my first experience with winter and snow. And I think one of the things that really helped me adjust in New Jersey was having a family member who was also working at the hospital that I was joining. And so they were very intentional in making sure that their own employees actually connected with their relatives in the Philippines and encourage us and help us through the process to come to the United States. So I think that was very helpful because I live with my cousin and the hospital worked with her so that she had the financial support to be able to help me as I was starting. And so I did not have to look for an apartment. And I was in a familiar environment with my cousin. And then the second two was they had a lot of Filipinos already in the organization. So they connected me very quickly with the Filipino community. What that meant was I was by myself. My family was still in the Philippines. I did not feel like I was alone in a new country. I felt that I belonged and that I had a support system. And one of the significant things that I always share when I talk about my experience of coming to the United States is I lost my father 2 weeks upon arrival in the United States. And so that was a very difficult time for me because I didn't even start my orientation, and I had to leave the country and go back, take another 7,000-mile flight back home, pay my respects to my father who died unexpectedly at the age of 57. And so it was quite difficult. But then looking back 17 years after, I think that living with my cousin and having had the Filipino community's support, and also my former organization's support, the hospital that sponsored me. Here in the US, we have a 3-day bereavement support for our associates. But what they told me was take as much time as you can and come back when you are ready to return. And so I felt that that was a very human and a very compassionate gesture from the organization that I didn't even start my hospital orientation with. So I felt really committed to make sure that I am one of their best employees, that I gave my all when I was working. And yes, it was a difficult time of grieving, but I also had the support of the Filipino community and the hospital where I worked at.
That's wonderful. And so as we fast forward here to 2021, just so folks know, what is your current position?
Yes, so I'm currently Associate Chief Nursing Officer here at Christus Trinity Mother Frances Health System in Tyler, Texas. Very, very happy and to be part of a faith-oriented and mission-oriented organization.
Excellent, excellent. Glad you were able to join us on camera. I'm going to actually remove the other one because you're in twice. Then remove the other one here, but glad you are.
The problem is, Rollis, if you remove me, I cannot hear you on my cell phone. I'm not sure what the issue is here now.
Oh, okay. So let's. Oh, I got it. Okay, well, so we'll leave that
so
then.
You can see me on my cell phone.
Okay, very good. And can you turn it sideways? The phone? Can you turn the phone sideways?
Sideways, like this.
Like this. Like flip it like that.
This way?
Yes. There we go. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Okay, very good. Okay, so Lona, tell us about your experience when you first came to the U.S. How was that?
So for me, I left Jamaica, and as you see, I have Jamaica in my background. I decided just a few hours ago to be part of this, and I'm at work. I don't think my background is as exciting as the beach background. So
we would have taken it either way.
I left Jamaica after 8 years in my profession as a medical lab scientist. And I came here to go to school. My goal was to go to medical school. So I came to Howard University in DC. And I think that was a great thing for me. You know, the thought of coming here, I didn't think about the different culture or the culture shock or how that would have affected me. But looking back, I'm glad that I went to Howard University, because at Howard University, there's a lot of people from the Caribbean and a lot of professors from the Caribbean, and maybe because of that, we heard a lot about Howard University. And when we hear about Howard University, in our mind, it's like Harvard. So I came to Howard University, and I was lucky enough to have a great community. And there were friends that who had graduated from my college years before or a few years after. So we were able to either choose to live together, or some of the professors would invite us on holidays like Thanksgiving, I remember my first Thanksgiving, one of my professor from Jamaica invited a few of us to her home, and I was like, why do I have to celebrate this holiday? Because it was new to me. But for her, she was thinking, oh, they're away from home, they need to be with family. But for us, it wasn't something that we were missing. But people were
Ah,
sensitive, sensitive enough to think about us, to invite us into their homes when there were like certain holidays. So, that was a great transition, having other people not only from Jamaica, but from the same professional field in school. And having years of experience as a medical lab scientist, I was invited to get a job in the hospital as a student. So there were other Jamaicans who were supervisors and managers at Howard University Hospital who said, oh, you have all this experience, you could work part-time. So that again was great. The only challenge that I remember having was people make, and I think it was usually like the native in DC
mm-hmm.
wanted to make it so clear that my accent was different. And so they would deliberately say things like, huh? It's
Ah,
like make it so obvious that
right.
what you're saying, you need to reword it or rephrase it. So that to me was, you know, I think I was offended by that, and I would get defensive about it. And I would say, I don't even understand what you say either, because that's not English. So we would get into that, kind of. And then with time, with, certain adjustments, people getting to know us, then, the warmth came about, like going to church, doing different activities. We got more comfortable with the different culture, different things. But the transition for me was really great because of the community aspect of it.
I can say that I know how you feel to a certain extent, because when my wife and I went to France, we were so excited because we had been learning French for a couple of years, and so we go there and we start trying to practice our French, and they would act like they wouldn't. They would give us that look like they didn't understand what they were talking. They knew what we were saying, and then because we knew they knew what we were saying, they would repeat it back correctly. First, they act like they couldn't understand what we were saying. Then they would repeat it back. Oh, you was trying to say such and such, kind of making a point
Yes,
that we weren't saying it right versus just trying to
exactly.
communicate. So I know what you mean on
So,
that. Go ahead.
Rollis, can I just add to that?
Yeah.
So a few years ago, my family went to Japan and we visited some friends over there. But it's amazing, this new generation of children, because they immediately connected because they use their technology. They use the phones to be able to communicate, and before you know it, they were already conversing using their devices. And so I wish that I had that when we were starting, because then it would have helped. But I think we can now say that, with our devices and with new technology, we can help. But Lona, just to your point too, you are correct with the accent. I think most of us, or majority of us, go through that. And like you, I had those experiences where I would get defensive. But then as I realize, when people know that you care, when people know that you're trying to make sure that they understand what you're trying to say, then it becomes immaterial. The accent
Mm.
doesn't become very important. And I really, really appreciate too the experience, because then I would not have tried so hard to really, make sure that I'm being understood. Because if I'm not, it can mean that I'm not able to meet the needs of my patients. As a nurse, I always wanted to make sure that my patients were understanding what I was saying. Or if I called the physician at night, that they can understand what I'm trying to say, because I am advocating for a patient. So just wanted to make sure that I shared my thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's excellent. So Lona, fast forward to now. What are you doing now, so our audience knows?
So now I'm a quality assurance specialist and a process improvement consultant on my day job. And I have a consulting company where I'm helping other medical lab professionals to find that career path, because there's so many aspects to what we do as medical lab professionals, and there's so many supporting career roles. And I know that for me, I was in a point where I was frustrated about where I was and didn't know exactly where to go. So now I'm helping people to identify all these different roles that they can use to have that fulfillment, that satisfaction, and that passion about what they do.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Malaska, Reezena Malaska, so for your situation, tell us a little bit about how it was for you when you first came to the United States and what your experience was like.
Well, as you've learned in the last few weeks, Rollis, I'm originally from Guyana. I emigrated to Canada in my mid-teens. So was kind of raised in Canada. I went to Britain and attended nursing school in Oxford, England. That in itself was a huge culture shock, and it was a lot of adjustment. And back then, this is over 35 years ago, now I'm going to date myself. There wasn't very much support for, a colored person who was attending one of the elite schools back then, let alone I was coming from Canada, right? Because I had immigrated to Canada in my mid-teens. So I had a lot of adjustment to do. It was terrible. It was horrible. I remember the first time that I was on the ward, a patient asked me, and I'd only been in the UK for probably a couple of months, and it was only my sixth week in the nursing program. So a patient asked me, called, and I answered the light, and she said, "I'd like to spend a penny." Now I knew that she didn't literally want to spend a penny, but I didn't know what exactly she wanted. So I went up to the nurses station and asked the nurses, what does spend a penny mean, with the patient? And I remember they all started laughing, and it was horrible because I didn't know. So I laughed because what else can you do?
Right.
So I learned that spending a penny in Britain is basically you want to go pee-pee, right? So fast forward, I moved back to Canada, didn't have any issues because I was raised in Canada, or raised myself. And then subsequently moved to the United States 25 years ago. I want to say it was this month, 25 years ago. So moving over here, it's still a huge cultural adjustment because the way we nurse in Canada is not the way things are here. And I remember no one gave me the time of day when it came to orienting me to a Pyxis. What is a Pyxis? We never had that kind of thing in order to get supplies. Supplies was in the supplies room. Sometimes you had to charge some things to the patient. Well, we never did that in Canada or in the UK either. So it was really, really hard. It was terrible, the terminology, the different things, and I suffered greatly. And I'm telling you, this is 25 years ago. Now you fast forward to now, I met a Filipino nurse in Houston when I was working as COVID critical care there. I was there for 6 months. And we were talking, and she trained in Britain, and she came over to the United States. So she was telling me some of her challenges, and some of her challenges are similar to mine from 25 years ago. So that tells me that we really have not evolved in the United States. There's so much work to do. And as you know, my platform is bullying, incivility, lateral violence, and also promoting a therapeutic, healthy work environment, and how all of these things affect patient care, quality of care, and outcomes, right? So we still have a ways to go. As a travel nurse, I'm still faced with certain challenges that really, when you look back from 25 years ago, I should not be faced with these challenges right now. But as a doctoral prepared nurse, I know I've been doing a lot of leadership work for the last, I want to say since the master's, since I graduated with the master's over maybe 10, 15 years ago. I don't remember exactly when. But, we still have a ways to go. So listening to this nurse in Houston, Texas, and my own experiences moving every 5 to 6 months. I was in Houston for 6 months. I was in Indiana for 5 months. And now I'm here in Tennessee for 13 weeks.
You're in India?
has already started. It's already started. So we really have a long ways to go. And I appreciate what the two ladies have said, because I've gone through that, and I'm still going through it to a certain extent.
So you were in India this year?
Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. I was like, what? Okay. So that didn't come up in our conversations. Okay.
What are you smoking, my friend?
Sorry. I'm sorry. I misheard you. But anyway, I'm glad.
Remember, every time I came onto your show in the chat box, I'd say, "This is Reezena from Indiana."
Yeah, but I don't know why. Sorry, I misheard you. My mistake. So please grant me that.
That's okay.
So, wow. Okay, so let me ask you this. What will be let's talk about solutions, right? So, what would be your top tip, your top solution to make it more welcoming? Because we know those issues are there. So, what's one of your top tips that an organization can do to start to move the needle? We can't maybe fix the problem immediately, but what can we start with? What would you suggest, Dr. Malaska?
So, as you know, I am a professor as well, and I've taken time off from teaching. I've taught the BSN ADN program, and recently, for about 11 months, I taught a class for the doctoral program online. And, I hear students telling me the same thing. A lot of my students in the doctoral program are directors and professors teaching the bachelor's program and the master's. And they tell me they face the same thing. One of the things I do is basically, you need to have a mentor. You need to have some kind of a mentor program. When you are bringing in new nurses, it doesn't matter if you were born in the United States or you were born in a different country. These new nurses, new grads, they face the same things I do. Okay, you're new to the facility. There's a great deal of bullying and challenges that goes on. Nurses eat their young. It's not just critical care nurses, but anyone. Any department that you go in. So facilities need to make sure that they have a strong mentor program.
Okay.
You're not only mentoring the nurse through the orientation. What I found successful when I was a critical care educator working contracts in California was I implemented a system at this small facility where there are certain nurses who you can ask if they would like to become mentors. And then you coach them and you help them. And then they, in turn, are your resource. For example, as a traveler, we're only given 2 days orientation. That doesn't mean that I know the computer and, everything is fast paced. So what helps me is there are nurses I can turn to say, hey, I'm stuck here. What do I move on to? How do I get through this charting, here? And so it's similar to that. If you can have people who are influential, who are strong, who have that mental ability, the emotional intelligence, the mindfulness, everything that we've talked about over the past few months since I've known you, Rollis. Take all those things and put them together, and then you have that system of mentorship. Then that's going to support these nurses coming in from abroad, these nurses who need guidance, who need support, who can talk to someone in private or even, professionally without being laughed at or teased or even treated badly, because this thing that goes on in nursing, it's been going on for decades. We've got to quit it. We've got to quit doing that. Otherwise, we're going to drive people as quickly as they come through the front door, they're going to go out the back door. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And I'm sure, Mona, you've seen some of that already.
This is what I want to say to all of you guys right here. This does it for me right here. Can you see that? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that, because you guys went through quite a bit over the years, and I know what you mean about no one likes to be laughed at, and this is a situation where it may have happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, and it still sticks with you. So one of the things that I get from this, I'm learning from this, and those who are watching this, is laughing at someone else's expense who's trying to, acclimate themselves to our environment here is something that we could perhaps avoid, and just avoid that type of feeling. I mean, so I appreciate you sharing that with me. Now, Dr. Kohles,
if I may, I would like to talk about my first experience working in the United States. I was a military wife, as you know, and it was in New Mexico. So not only am I dealing with young children, I just had my third child and I started working at this facility. I was driving 65 miles one way to work in Las Cruces because we were in Alamogordo at the Air Force Base there.
Oh yeah, I'm
So
familiar with that.
I was contending with trying to take care of my children. I didn't have childcare. I worked as a night nurse. My ex-husband was always gone or whatever. So I slept with my children playing around me, go to work. And here I am trying to fit in, and you don't know the stress. I'm a military wife. I'm a young mother. I am driving for 65 miles one way to go to work in this unit. And no one really thought about me, like supporting me.
Mm.
It took about 2 years because I was at this facility for 3.5 years when the bullying got so bad and I was ostracized. People were supporting me privately. There was a few people that really liked me, but for the most part, there was this group that were awful. And it came to a head where the charge nurse, who was an excellent guy, I was always remember Mark, when he found out what had happened and what I was subjected to for almost 2 years, he was furious. He was furious. He said, and the reason I didn't go to him or go to anyone was I was trying to fit in. I was young. I didn't want to lose my job.
Right.
At night when it was quiet, we would all sit around in a group and we would shoot the breeze, as we would call it, right? And he would either talk to us because he was highly experienced about patient care situations in the ICU or just about life in general, So when he found out, he was furious and he said, Reezena, don't you ever, ever, ever let anyone do that to you. And he said, just because I sit there and I hee-haw with this group doesn't mean I condone what they've done to you or what they're doing. And he put a stop to it. And let me tell you, the last year and a half I was there, the same group of people that bullied me for almost 2 years were inviting me to outings, to their weddings, to whatever.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was amazing. It was amazing. One person stood up for me, and that person had a role, a definitive role in the ICU.
Right.
He was a charge nurse on the night shift. So all it takes is one person to stand up and say, hey, this is not right.
Oh, I love that. I love that happy ending. I wasn't sure where it was going, but wow, you really buttoned that thing up good. Okay, let me just show you. That's how I appreciate that. That was wonderful. Okay, so Dr. Gall, I'm curious. She was talking about these mentors, and so you're associate chief nursing officer there in Tyler. What are some things you guys have done to maybe identify mentors? Or do you have mentors there? Is that something that's worked? Or any other tips that you have that can help make it more welcoming for these folks who are coming in from other countries?
I love the concept of mentorship. As mentioned by Reezena, I think there's really a lot of value. And the traditional mindset is looking at orientation, preceptors, and really if you want to retain your associates, you want them to have mentors. And those mentors actually don't have to be on the same unit. They can be on a different floor. They can be in different departments. What's important is there's something that connects the mentee and the mentor. And so I really love that. We currently have a mentorship program, but because I heard Reezena share that, I actually I was writing it down. I am going to do it for this batch of international nurses that are coming to our doors actually in the fall. And so I've been working with our human resources team and our talent acquisition team because I want to be able to use my role as a senior nurse leader here in our organization and to be able to represent. As I was listening to Reezena earlier, we really need to be able to share and be a voice for those who will be coming to us from other countries. And I'm not just referring to Filipinos, nurses. We are also getting nurses from India, from different parts of the world, from the UAE, from the UK, so different types of international nurses. And so just from what are we doing to make sure that we have a strategy to welcome and retain these international nurses. First is having information about the countries where they're coming from. A one-pager would be very important, although I know it will be a 3-page or a 5-page document. But just providing that information, that just like we're coming from the United States as, nurses who were born here, we also need to be able to provide information to those coming here. And likewise for those, it's vice versa. It's not one-sided. It's not just my country as an international nurse, but also for you who are here. And if, we have idioms, we have terms for certain
Terminology, yes,
yes,
absolutely.
for certain experiences or concepts. So it's very important to be able to share that ahead of time. So I agree with you, Reezena. And so the information sharing, I think, is important because a lot of times, sometimes the defensiveness on the part of people is from a lack of knowledge,
Yes.
from not knowing. And so there's certain anxieties there that we project as, I will bully you because I was here first, that kind of thing. And so if we work around providing information for both parties, it becomes a win-win. And we try to be proactive and avoid feelings of inferiority or incivility, bullying, horizontal violence, those kinds of experiences. And then we don't want anyone to suffer in silence too. It's been 25 years and Reezena still remembers that experience, and I'm sure Lona also, and myself. But then every person is different. I guess I am fortunate enough because I had a bucket of like a resiliency bucket that I can draw from because I had a very strong support system. My family was available. I had community support. So that's one of the things also that we're preparing. We're working with the Filipino community here and trying to make sure that we provide local resources. Where do you go to church? Who would be your liaison if you're thinking about buying a home, or do you need to buy a home during your first year? Understanding financial literacy, and don't go into debt immediately. Those kinds of things, and things that America is well known for is you can buy everything on credit. And for somebody who comes from a country where, like in the Philippines, if you don't have the money, they can't even accept you in a hospital. You have to pay a deposit.
Wow.
And here you have health insurance. And so it becomes a big culture shock. And in fact, a lot of Filipinos can go into debt because then you realize that, no, I have to pay this back. It was taken on credit. And so all those kinds of things. And my husband and I were actually doing that every time there are new immigrants to the community. We try to talk to them, not to buy the new things, not to buy the big fancy things. And, just talking from experience, because we would tell them, if you buy a lot of things on credit, you will be forced to work overtime. If you work overtime, you get really tired and exhausted. You won't have time for your children or for what matters. And then you get burned out easily. So, just those small words of advice. And then the third would be just making sure that we have touch points. We check on them, which is the mentor concept, I believe. I think bringing the international nurses here is the easy part. I know it takes a long time, but I think that's the easy part. Keeping them here and keeping them in the same organization is the harder
challenge. That's the challenge.
Exactly.
Mona, I would love to collaborate with you on your mentorship program, because being a British trained Canadian nurse, I went from one system to another, and I, in my travels as a military wife and even as a travel nurse, I can share some things with you that would really help your program.
That sounds great.
I would love that. Thank
Made
you,
a connection.
Reezena.
I love it. And so I just want to check in with the audience and see what they think of this this new plan you have to help orient some of these new nurses here. And it seems that it's definitely a hit. That's very good. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, Lona. and if you don't mind, it's gonna be a fun question. And then I want you to follow up after you answer the fun question. I do want you to follow up. You'll be the next one to talk about your top 2 or 3 tips, but we'll at least answer the question, kind of keep things fun here. And by the way, I do see a comment from Carl McIver. Thank you for being here. And he's was especially excited about Dr. Malaska. He knows her personally, and he was so happy that she joined us today. So thank you for that, Carl. Appreciate you chiming in today. Okay, so my question for you is, are you ready, Lona?
I am. I'm not sure, but let's go.
Okay, let's pretend. Okay, let's talk outside of work for a second. Would you rather be taken too seriously all the time, or be thought of as a partier all the time?
I'd rather be taken seriously. I'm a serious.
Okay, so why is that? Tell me why.
Most of my concepts generally are serious, and I tend, as you notice, I'm a coach, and I think about people, and I always think about their growth and empowerment and all of that. I love to have fun, of course, because I believe that, we should be ourselves and, be free to work and play.
Yes.
But I don't want to be seen as someone just, wasting time. I want to have an impact on people's lives. So unfortunately, I'm the serious person. I'm not,
Well, hey, look, it's not
I laugh
unfortunate.
a lot and I dance a lot, but I'm really a serious person.
Hey, be you. No, it's not unfortunate at all. I'm glad. It's to give us an opportunity to express ourselves. So, Dr. Z, what do you think?
I want to be taken seriously, and most of my students and the people that are around me, they see me one way. Like I remember many years ago teaching the BSN program, and I taught 5 different subjects, and my students would be like, "So what are you doing at the Dr. Z for the weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're going camping." And they're like, "Oh, we don't see you as camping." And I'm like, "Why?" And they said, "Well, you're always so well put together, and always, I guess my persona, the way I carry myself, whether I'm in scrubs or I'm in, wearing a lab coat, or whatever." And I said, "You'd be surprised, the reason why I want to be taken seriously is the same reasons as what Lana mentioned. But, you can always break out like I do and show your funny side. Like 2 days ago, I had this difficult, challenging schizophrenic patient. And oh my gosh. So there were others in my, my grouping, my pod, who were lighthearted, met me for the first time. And we actually were joking around and dancing in the hallway and doing stupid things just to make the night go fast. So when you break out like that as a night nurse, you're doing these things. Even the patients, one of my patients said, "I heard you all laughing out there." And I said, "Oh, we weren't laughing about you." She said, No, I know you weren't laughing about me." She was 92 years old. And she said, "It was refreshing to hear you all." I said, "Yeah, we try to keep it light and have a little bit of fun with all the seriousness."
Yeah, absolutely.
So she appreciated it, so that's my thing, is you can always break out and do something funny. You can dance. Sometimes I show them yoga stretches or whatever. I was known for that in New Mexico and other places I've worked, because I was a yoga enthusiast for a long time, power yoga.
Okay. Awesome.
But yeah, that's my thing.
Okay, now, so we'll ask you, Mona. Now, just to make sure I clarify the question, though, we're talking about outside of work. Would you rather be taken seriously all the time, or be thought of as only a partier all the time? You can't like break out of it. Like they were trying some workarounds, but I just want to see what would you say to this? If you had to be serious all the time, or be not necessarily that you were a partier, but you were seen as a partier all the time, which one would you choose outside of work?
So I really love spending time with myself when I'm outside of work. I draw a lot of energy during the work week and share it with others. So that's my extroverted self. But then over the weekends, I'm my introverted self. So I draw energy from like mindful activities, reading, coloring books, doing something that organizing where I'm in the flow.
Okay.
So you would call me Rollis as somebody who is seriously fun.
Okay.
And I say that because when I am at work, they know that our work is serious, but they also know that I am always there with a smile, spreading joy, because you can only give what you have,
Right.
and so a lot of times I'm always that person who would bring joy to everyone. Like yesterday, I just pulled a prank on one of the VPs in my here in
I
our
love that.
administration suite. I'm working on a project that involves pretzels. So currently here in my office, I have 20 boxes of pretzels. And
Nice.
so what I did was I went to her office and put post-it notes on the pretzels and put it on different areas of her office. And so I left the office and she came late, and I got a text from her early this morning, and she said, "Thank you for making these pretzels keeping them all over the place, because after a very long day at work, it gave me a smile."
I love
So
that.
that kind of thing. So they call me pretzels here at work right now.
So basically, I think it's a consensus that it's very difficult for either of you to go with one or the other. You got to mix it in. So even though you lean
Yes.
towards serious, you got to pull in some fun. So I get that. So thanks for trying to play along. I really appreciate that. Okay, so I want to ask Lona. I want you to ask you your top 2 or 3 tips. And because Mona said something about books, I have a question about books. But I want to ask you first, Lona. What's your top 2 or 3 tips that you'd like to give about making it more welcoming for new ones coming in from other countries?
Yeah, so I think that Mona and Reezena covered a lot of my thoughts.
Okay,
I
that's
think
fine.
they had some really good thoughts. For me, I think having a diversity, either committee or diversity structure in your
Ah, yes.
organization is so important, because that gives not only the people who are coming in internationally, but people who are there to come together to learn about each other, to learn about the different countries, to learn about the customs, to learn about the food, find it intriguing, and people are actually working together in those committees and these groups, and
Yes.
they have different events and showcase the different countries. So that, for me, I've seen that work a lot. Another thing that I've seen working is when people come in, giving them the orientation that's different. So things like, what's the best place to live, best mode of transportation? Because, like, for me, for our institution, the train comes directly into our hospital, and there are
Mmm.
different stops that are really good places to live that they recommend to people coming in, not only internationally, but coming in from different states that at the time may not have a car, or they may not have decided on where to live.
Right.
So it's good to give them these ideas, like, taking the train would be a great idea. So living in, these towns would be close on the train, and these are good neighborhoods. Like telling them about different grocery stores,
Yes.
sometimes international stores that you can go and get
Oh
the
yeah.
food that you love to get. This is where you can find these places. Connecting them with others that are from the same communities, so that they can, either, I mean, it's going to be their choice, but once you make these connections, they'll decide, I like going out with this group, or I may not like going out with this group because I don't do, I maybe love to go to church or love to go to party, but they can make that decision once they're connected with the different groups or communities from where they're from. Another thing for me is, whoever are involved in training, to kind of give them tips on how to train people who are coming from other countries,
Oh yes.
because many times there's a lot of assumption. These people may be very talented, but they may not be familiar with instrumentation or so. For me, being in the lab, there's a lot of automation. There's a lot that should be done on the computer in terms of, sending off results, reviewing results. And I've had to train people who are coming from countries who are not familiar with even the computer. And I've seen those people being trained by others who will fail them because they don't
Mm.
understand that it's not a matter of knowledge. It's more about being familiar with technology.
Ooh, that's a
And
good
so
point.
I would have to spend more time with them. And I would say, I know I ask a lot of questions. Are you familiar with, in your lab, what technology do you use? There are people coming from labs that use paper. And so,
Mm.
knowing that helps me to know where to spend more time to get them familiar. And I would kind of boost them and give them, like encourage them, spend a lot of time with this, spend a lot of time with that, because you don't want to be seen as if you don't have the knowledge. I
Right.
know you have the knowledge, but these are the areas in which you need to build on. And so that's so important. And, while I'm talking about the trainers, you know, just having, that orientation, if you're a leader, if you're a manager, try to get to know each individual and know them for the things that either they love, because a lot of or know their strengths, and then focus on their strengths at first so that you can get small wins so they feel more comfortable. With time, they'll gradually adjust. So once you start giving them things that they know they're good at, then you'll kind of, a lot of maybe the defense will come down and the confidence will go up, and they'll probably open more with people and feel more at ease. So try to focus a lot on their strengths so they can have these small wins, and the adjustment process will be easier. So those
I'd
are
like
just a
to,
few things that I think I can
yeah.
think of.
And I would like to piggyback on that. One of the things that I see would work, and I've seen it worked in the past, is having a little self-assessment questionnaire to break the ice. Okay. Like, what are your challenges? What are your hopes and dreams? What are some of, name the top 3 things I can help you with right now. And then you build on that every week, maybe meet with them every week or every month, right?
Right.
One of the things that, and that self-assessment questionnaire, it shows the organization and the leadership really cares about you, because they want to know about you. They want to know, look, we can come from, and I learned this from students of mine, once again, listening to them on the phone or even by email. We can be from the same culture, from the same religion, from the same village or town or whatever, but doesn't mean that we're all the same. So
That's
if
true.
you approach each individual that comes as an individual, think about it. When we provide patient care, we provide individualized patient care. We have these processes and we have these protocols, right, to apply. But what we do is we apply it individually. It's not a one size fits all. Okay. One of the things that really impressed me as a professor in the early days in Northern Virginia, when my ex-husband was stationed in DC, was I was teaching at a hospital system. And that hospital system in DC, in Northern Virginia, they had a large group of international nurses. And the senior nursing leadership, one of the things they did that I thought was fantastic, once a month, they would showcase one set of culture, like nurses from Uganda or
Oh, that's
nurses
beautiful.
from the Philippines or whatever, and they would have a potluck. These nurses were allowed to wear their traditional dress. So while my students were there, we were invited to participate too,
That's
and
excellent.
I was so amazed to see how much this broke the ice. Everybody brought in potluck, they talked about their country, they talked about the food, and the nurses were allowed to dress. And this was during lunch breaks. They were
Oh,
given
I
like a
love it.
1 hour, hour and a half.
That's
Think about
great.
that.
That's awesome.
You're learning about that culture.
Very good. Thank you for that. So, Dr. Gall, I know you got Mona. I know you got to leave here in a few minutes. So, you want to give us your last thoughts before you have to head out?
Yes. First, thank you so much, Rollis, for including me in this conversation. I was really, really excited, and it was one of your topics that I was really looking forward to. As an internationally prepared nurse, I know that there's so many that will come after me who also want to make a better life for themselves and their families. And so I want to be one of those who would like to pay it forward and be able to help and support these new international nurses who are coming. And for those who are on the call, don't be discouraged. I know that the visa processing system can be very tedious and challenging, but don't lose hope. Continue to invest in yourself and continue to, like what Lona said, build on your strengths. And when it's time for you to come, make sure that you don't forget where you came from. We have this quote in the Philippines that says, ang hindi lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makakarating sa paroroonan. And what it means is you never forget your roots. You never forget where you came from and the people who help you get to where you are. So thank you all so much. Appreciate you.
I love that. Let's see what the audience thinks of that. 1 second here. They love it. Very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Gaw. Have a great one.
Appreciate you.
Mona, keep in touch.
Will do. Thank you so much, Reezena. Bye, Lana.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Nice
Bye.
chatting.
Okay, so we're going to stay on for a couple more minutes here. I see a couple more comments here. Let me go ahead and acknowledge those. Thank you for these comments. I see Kim. Oh, Kim's got some really good ones. She says, as a former expat, I can truly say onboarding is a crucial foundation for settling in. She says, yes, even the standards of practice for nursing vary in each country. So she was agreeing with you guys. She says, love her international days. And then we also have Joy Bonet. Welcome, Joy. She says, thank you. So she appreciates it. And, Joanne says, I love that quote. She says, proud Panay. Does that sound something with the Philippines? Panay? I don't know, maybe let us know what that means. And Leah says hello. So thank you. Okay. So I have another fun question for you guys. You ready to do one more fun question?
Sure.
Okay. All right. This is this one. I know I've done this before. Okay. So never have I ever. We're gonna guess whether you've ever done this or not. And I got a choice of two, actually. You can answer whichever one you want the most. Okay. Never have I ever hit send too soon when texting. That's one of them. The other one is never have I ever eaten something so spicy it made me cry. Okay. So which one do you want to take, Lona, of those? You want to take one of those or both?
Both.
Both. Okay. So, Dr. Z, you and I, Reezena, we're gonna try to figure out if she's ever hit send too soon when texting, or eaten something so spicy it made me cry. And those in the audience who in the comments, let us know what you think. Do you think that she has hit send too soon when texting, or eaten something so spicy it made her cry? What do you guys think in the comments? Tell us if she has or she's never. Okay, so while they're thinking about that, Reezena, give me your honest answer. What would you say to either one of those questions?
I think she's eaten something that made her cry, spicy that made her cry. I mean, she's from the same culture as me. So.
Okay, and then what do you think about the hit send too soon when texting? You think she's done that?
No, I think she comes across as a very careful person.
Okay, all right. And then so Joanne guessed she thinks yes to both. That's what we got. That's the amount of votes I see already. So even if you're watching the replay or live, let us know what you think. And then I also want you guys in the comments to share about yourself as well, whether you've ever hit send too soon when texting, or ate something so spicy it made you cry. Okay, so we're all in suspense. I actually think that you have on both. That's just my guess. Reezena thinks yes on the spicy food, but no on the texting. So we're in suspense. What's your answer, Lona?
So Regina is correct. I'm more measured and careful when it comes to texting, but not necessarily
Ah,
when it comes to an email.
okay, okay,
I've
wow.
sent email where I'm like, whoa, there's no subject. You're at work and there's just a lot going on. But when it comes to texting, I'm more careful, and maybe my age is telling on me. I'm not those that are like tech savvy, so I'm more careful with that. And then when it comes to eating food so spicy it makes me cry, Re- uh, you're right, Reezena, but not in the way that you think. My kids keep telling me that I'm definitely not from Jamaica because I cannot tolerate spicy food. So of course, a little spice is gonna make me cry. So
Oh, got it.
so it's in a different ways, yes, but in a different way.
Men love the spicy food, all the time, man. Anyway, yeah, I love it spicy. My wife, she cooks very spicy, so I've had it where it still brought tears to my eyes, but I love it. I still love it. And so Kim in the comments, she says I say yes to both. So she thought it was yes to both, but it turns out for text you're so careful you've never done it. So I'm proud of you for that. I have actually done it a couple of times, embarrassingly so. Fortunately, the other person was understanding of me, of what I did, so it all worked out. Well, listen, it's been great today. So let's do a couple of just a quick parting words, whatever tips you want to give to our audience. Dr. Z, can you give us just like a quick? We got about maybe 2 minutes left, so give us about a minute or so of what's your top tips you'd like to share with our group.
The first thing is basically treating the next, the person with respect and reverence. The one thing you don't know where that person's come from. You don't know what they were doing in their home country. One of the things I've learned over the years, many, many years of traveling as a military wife and working in numerous hospitals, is I found out that there are people working in our system in healthcare who are doctors in their own country, and they come here and they cannot get into the program for whatever reason. And so they are, they're critical care techs or they are monitor techs. And, if you take the time to look at that person as a human being and get to know them, you learn so much more, and you have a deeper
Yes.
understanding and respect for their contribution and where they may be coming from and what they're having to deal with. Don't assume just because a person is a CNA or a tech or whatever it is, or a housekeeper. I've seen housekeepers who didn't get a chance, and in their countries they were different, higher up in professional fields. Getting to know them, be a mentor, be a good friend, find out how are they doing, how is it going, are you having difficulty settling in, is there anything I can help you with? Extend that same courtesy to your peers and to those that are joining the organization, just as you would with your patient. I always say, take the concepts of patient care, quality of care outcomes, and apply the nursing process to your peers and to people that you meet, and you're going to be the better person, right? Because don't make assumptions, never make assumptions.
Great points. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Z. And then, so Lona, finish this out. What's your top tip you want to give our folks out in the audience?
Okay, so I think I'm starting out with internationals coming here. Be patient. If I had to say something to myself, when I came here, if I was more patient instead of being easily offended, but we're human, but be patient, and with time you'll get to that point where you're more comfortable. Try to know as much, try to learn as much about the new culture and adjust to that culture. So it's on both sides. And for the receiving country, try to learn as much about the individuals. Know them for who they
Yes.
are. Do not generalize. Don't talk about people from the Philippines or people from the Caribbean. Get to know individuals for who they are. And once you do
Mm.
that with an open mind, you would really be surprised. You'll value them even more because you're going to see a lot of value in individuals. So give yourself that time to get to know people. And that's basically what I would recommend.
I love it. You know what you guys both did just now? And including
47.
Mona. She did the same thing. You did that right there. Just knocked it right out of the park. I appreciate it. And here's our audience response right here. Thank you very much for your time today. You guys are great. And those in the audience, I tell you, I love the comments that we had going today. That was amazing as well. So we want to thank all of you out there in the comments. Appreciate you being here today. We had Kim and Carl and Joy and several of you. So thank you for being with us today and those who are watching. And if you're watching the replay, please comment. Let us know whether you're watching it live or the replay. What resonated with you? What things have you heard that you think you would like to implement? Whether you are someone who's coming here or someone who's receiving, what are you going to implement when you as far as for what we talked about. And I think even also there's times it may not even be working perhaps in healthcare right now, but if someone comes from another country, we got a chance to learn about how we could actually make that connection with that person and be more welcoming to them. So I want to thank both of you as well as Dr. Mona Kohles for coming on today. Thank you very much.
Rollis, thank you for giving us this opportunity. Lana, nice to meet you. I really appreciated everything that you said. And, so it's one more opportunity to contribute to society and to communities and to helping those that are, coming with the intention of making a better life for themselves. We've all been there and we know how the struggles.
Yeah.
Rollis, you are amazing as usual. And it's been several weeks since I've been on one of your show or even in the chat box. And I appreciate what you've done today.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rollis. Thanks for inviting me. I know this was like a short notice, but I'm glad that I jumped on and I was able to contribute. Such an important topic. And I'm glad that I had that this conversation with Reezena and Mona. I'm happy meeting you. I hope we can connect after the show, but I'm glad I was able to participate in such an important discussion.
Oh, please do. I would love to stay in touch.
And we have some folks that are in the comments that I think you guys would love to connect with as well. So if the folks in the comments want to connect with you, is that good also?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, so let's all do that. If you're watching either live or the replay, if you like what you heard, these are definitely some folks you want to connect with and follow on the platform. So thanks, everyone. Now, you stay on, but let's just say bye to everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, and then Jonathan's going to let us know when we can go ahead and cut it off. Because I've done that in the past, where I'll be talking and I'll cut myself off. I've done that before.
You're good, Rollis.